Alright, welcome back to another True Crime Saturday. As promised, we are returning to the Maggie Long case. Tonight will most likely be one of our last streams on this case, unfortunately. There's a lot more I'd like to get to, but I have a long list of things, long list of other cases I do need to get some attention to. Not that they're more important, not that there's something else going on with it. No, it's just I've got more things I'd like to cover. Like how we always do with all of our other cases, we do tend to return to them, but this will be one of the last ones for at least for about 3 months or so at least. But as I promised last time we were on this case, I am going to be discussing who I believe matches more of the suspect's sketches that happen to be in the hometown of Maggie Long and who didn't live that far off. I'm still investigating this further, and there will be some investigations, of course, conducted. Well, rather, investigative work, of course, behind a computer, because I'm not flying to Bailey, Colorado. Got a lot of other things I gotta go and take care of currently. But I'm gonna do what I can to get this information to the Bailey Police Department, Park County Sheriff's Office, whatever I need to do, but this does need to be investigated. And I do believe I found a lead. Now, I found a few different Facebook groups that were also talking about different suspects who they believe were the killers and all this, but I don't believe so. I couldn't find much on what they were talking about, and I couldn't really find anything that really made sense about who they considered. However, that being said, when it comes to this case, I do believe these three individuals, they knew her. I've got a few different reasons as to why, and we're going to go and cover a good majority of the case very, very quickly. The show should be approximately about a half an hour to an hour long, so, definitely buckle up as we are going to be speeding through this very quickly. But we're going to have to go and return to the investigation boards. So, without further ado, let's get right into that. Now, most people think this is basically what there is to the case. Okay? It's a few different photos and things like this, but there's a lot more. Like I said, there's the forensics behind it, and just like the David Crowley case, there's a lot of things that the detectives and these forensic investigators actually did not conduct. However, I don't even think necessarily we have to even conduct it. We just need an alibi for these three individuals on the night of her death. We need to find out, in fact, where they were prior to her death. And then, of course, we need witness testimony to go and prove this. Now, keep in mind, this is about 7 years ago. Okay, and I believe at least one of these men has passed on. I'm not saying necessarily these are for sure them, as I don't have enough proof. However, that being said, I do want to go and give off some things. Like I said, we're going off of facial structure, head shape, things like this, that do need to be covered, all right? Now, when it comes down to that is genetic. Your head shape, all this, there's a lot of genetics that go into this, right? But like I said, if we had the alibis of these three individuals, then we could start putting some things together. But we do know that, and I'm gonna go and show pictures, just two pictures of these individuals. We're gonna go and compare them to the sketches, as you can see right here. And this is where things are going to get a little interesting here. I'm not 100% certain, and like I said, I'm not trying to slander anybody, I'm not trying to do any of that, but this does need to be discussed. Now, we have a couple things here we have to look at here, alright? The vehicles. Did any of these three young men own these vehicles? Were they a family vehicle? Were they a friend's vehicle? I don't have those answers currently. However, that being said, one of these individuals does appear to have had a truck that's very similar to this one right there, dead center of the screen. from what I've gathered, at least there was some photos showing that this truck possibly could have been theirs. Not this exact model, right? I mean, this exact truck, obviously. These are just pictures, just the ones that are supposed to look like it. But this could have possibly been these individuals here, all right? So, without further ado, let's start going through the next part, because now we know we've got a few different things here that we can really analyze here, which is we have vehicles, the suspects' head shapes, things like that, their length of hair, their jaws, their eyes, like their eye shapes. We've also got cheekbones, hairstyle, of course. So we've got a few different things we can really cover off of this. Now, this is going off of witness testimony, what these guys look like. We need to really solidify this. We need to know who this witness was. I know it may not make sense, but it's nice to have this here because then you can check their credibility. At the end of the day, let's say this was these guys. They were, these guys were the suspects they brought to trial, right? I don't like to go in, at least the route I would go. I would not want to go and basically throw this out there, and then somehow something happens and they're able to go and get off due to technicality. We wouldn't want that, right? So we'd want to go and really quadruple check, maybe 100 times over, really check our work here. Does this all make sense? Does this line up? What are the motives? What are, all this, alibis, and does everything check out? I just started looking through. I went to the same high school. Similar, very, very similar structures. Everything about these guys is very, very similar. And I'll show you guys here in a second, but that's the part that's really, really odd. So let's go on to the next one. Okay, so we've got the details about this. We know that the police had said, two different stories basically. Missing persons report was filed, and on top of that, there's this incident going on at this residence here, right? They weren't putting two and two together for the public. They had already had some information. In fact, when they got there, they had already basically this is it. They didn't really need the coroner for it. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? Now we know this is what ended up happening. Here's all the information we have on this, right? Let's continue. We know how she was killed, all that. We know where things were started, blah, 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 blah. We know all this. We know that these guys had come in, and you can see right over here on the right, they had stolen 2 firearms, tons of ammunition. They took the whole safe as a whole, and there was a bunch of jade figurines, blah, 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 blah. So we know all that's going on. All right, and then we get into this part here, where it goes over details. We've got details on how much that the safe would have weighed on its own. Then, of course, we have the weight of the ammunition, things like this. That's going to go and add some weight to this. So you're going to need a few people. Now, these people would have had to have known that there was a safe there. So that's really what they were there for. However, I'm not really certain that was the case. Okay? But I can't prove anything other than that. I mean, all we know is they stole the safe. When it comes down to the exact path they had traveled, well, we know they had to get up to the driveway, so either way, they had to be quick, okay? Police were called relatively early. So these guys, they knew they had to move super quick, right? So as you can see right here, the top middle photograph of the house, that's where they would have had to have most likely come out, had to have been parked right there and got out. More details about the actual Could have gone out the back. It's a possibility. You got to look at the footprints, things like this. There's a lot of different things that we could have, we can infer about this. But end of the day, either they came out the front, right? If they would have went out the back, there had to have been a good reason as to why. Could have been because of the safe size. Who knows? But end of the day, there's a few different things we can draw from here. We do know that picture number 2, which is the bottom left, the second one to the left, that one is where the fire was started. It does appear that it was on her, as you can see from the pattern on the wall. That does appear to be some like clothing type of pattern on there. Well, let's get right to it. These 3 young men. Check out their facial structures. Check out the eyes. Check out the weight on their face. I'm not giving their names out. It's enough that I've already given their pictures, right? But hello, Deb. How's it going? This is what I believe. This is from what I've got so far. I'm still digging on this. But I do know that one of these young men, he had passed away. End of the day, may God rest his soul. Nobody deserves to die. But end of the day, one young man in this picture is passed on. So, you check out some things like, for instance, cheekbones. That matches up. Now, the only one that really, there's 2 that technically don't match up, which is the very far left one, the heavyset male on the left, and then the male on the right. Now, the reason I say this is a little interesting here is because, now keep in mind, we have to be looking at the time frame of these photos. I believe this is prom. This would have taken place, give or take, I believe she was killed. Yeah, no, this case was not solved. That's the unfortunate part about this case, is it was never solved. They basically left it. There was a lot of things that the police had fumbled on this case. So that ends up being a huge problem when it comes to this, of course. But let me get the exact date on everything. So I believe it was December when this all took place. So it would have been kind of like winter, but I could be wrong. All I know is these definitely look to be prom photos. I just need to get the exact date again. This prom, you're looking about May or so. Yeah, this happened December 1st, 2017. So we've already looked at the weather before, so we know that the weather wasn't... It's totally probable. I believe it was pretty dry. It was pretty chilly, but it was just dry. I didn't see anything about snow, rain, anything like that. But it was dry and I believe somewhat cold. Of course, it being December, that makes sense. But usually in this type of an area, I would assume snow. I think I'm going to do a quick little run through my phone real quick. Oops. And double check. So let's see. Bailey, Colorado. December 1st, 2017. Weather. Doesn't appear to be. Let's see. So we're looking at it's probably about somewhere between 4 and 6, if I had to guess. So we're looking somewhere between 40 degrees or so and 30 degrees. Looks like the precipitation, there was no rain whatsoever. Wind was kind of going, but it's from the south. So which is going to go and push the smoke and things like that. It's going to push it northern. Yeah, we're looking at... Yeah, it would have been somewhere between, I would guess, about 43 degrees and 34 degrees or so. But end of the day, I mean, it's dry. That's the part we want to go and take from this. Dry, not snowy at all, not icy, just dry and cold. Okay? She was supposed to be at her high school. She only came back home to go get some refreshments for, the play that was going on that night. However, she never returned, and so other students got concerned, but her sister got concerned. Hey, how's it going? How's it going, Greg? So that's basically in a nutshell. So my question is, what are these three guys' alibi here? Where were they? So if we don't know where they were, right? I mean, or were they supposed to be at this play and just happened to not be there? Is that what went on? Were these guys, did they never just show up to it? Maybe they said, nah, I'm not going to that. Who knows? That's fair. Well, I mean, HARP has something to do with it, I'm sure. End of the day, you know, we got all that weather modification going on, plus everything else they're doing with these, you know, it's called the chemtrails and things like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going in the Midwest right now, too. It's Central United States is going to be, it's in my opinion, it seems to be more or less kind of a war zone for, like food wars, basically. I mean, you look at who owns the majority of the food, like the land here in America for agriculture. You got the Chinese Communist Party and you got Bill Gates. So, but yeah, crazy stuff going on over there. But in Bailey, that's such a small town. And that's true. Weird weather is definitely going on in California. There's been all sorts of weird things going on all over the place. It's just been kind of nuts. But this case, like I said, I know people have been asking about this. Who do I think is, you know, who these people in the sketches were? And this is who I believe it was. I said, you can't really deny the face shape. Look at the guy on the right. He does kind of have a slender face. It does kind of cone a little bit. You can look at the guy on the very far left. He does have that kind of a very circular face. He does have the kind of heftiness to him as well. On top of that, the guy in the center, very, very kind of, it's not generic, but the nose shape, the eyes, I mean, if he were to open his eyes all the way, which there's other photos of him when he opens his eyes all the way, you can definitely see that he is, this is striking. This guy over here on the left, we know that if he were to do the same thing, it would basically, you'd be able to get that as well. This guy here on the right, yeah, definitely. Yeah, look at the ear shape, for instance. Ear shape, it matches both these guys here. All three of these guys match on ear shape. Nose shape, it's pretty much spot on. The only guy that's a little different, and even then, it's just, you gotta look at these angles here. The guy on the right is the only one where the nose shape doesn't really hit it. Yeah, the dude on the left, for sure. For sure. So I'm curious as to who owns this van. Because there was two vehicles that were spotted leaving that area. In fact, I believe they were speeding out of the area, if I'm not mistaken. So something, in my opinion, to consider for this case is this. So I'll leave it up to everybody else, though. You know, what do you guys think? Are these the guys? That's exactly what I've still been trying to get with. I don't understand who this witness is. All I know is it's somebody that lived on the property. There's, of course, other witnesses to this. You know, people seeing the vehicle speeding off, but they were just like in the area, basically. Just happened to be there, you know, at the right place at the right time kind of thing, and we're able to witness this, and then we're able to go and get this over to the police. Other than that, we don't really know who the witness or witnesses were. The one who called in the actual, hey, I think there's something going on downstairs, right? Or there's something, or at the house, I think there's something going on. Maybe come check this out. This is not usual behavior. We don't know who it is. It's being withheld. But why? That's my question. Why? This usually when you get a witness or something like this, I get it. They want to remain anonymous, but why? I understand in some cases. I totally understand. But that's usually when somebody knows who's behind it, or if they believe there's something a little more sinister at work. You don't generally see this in just typical cases. Oh, these gangbangers went and, they shot up these guys. No, they come out with the witnesses. This is who these guys are. They witnessed the whole thing happen. Is there really any retaliation against that usually? No. There is in some cases, yes, sure, but it's not as often as Hollywood would portray it. It's usually in these types of cases, especially this far along, witness names are for sure thrown out into the wind. Yeah, well, unless, once again, something is more sinister going on in that area. Well, like I said, I think I need to go and investigate a little bit further on the vehicles to see if these families own the vehicles. I still need to get the man on the left's name. That's the only one I need to get left still, but I'm just literally just a hop, skip, and jump away from that. These guys are all clearly friends. One of them's already passed on. I don't know about the other one. But still, why would these three do this? Now, this is the part that also is a little interesting because one of these men appeared to live right down the street from Maggie. Literally just a few minutes away. So these guys are speeding off. They're able to beat the fire department out of the area. What could that mean? Right? I mean, I'm not trying to go and jump out there and be like, let me just lay everything out. I'm asking these questions. I want, the other viewers that aren't, they haven't really followed the case. I want you guys to all check this out yourselves. This case is really, really strange. End of the day, I can answer this right now. The fire department had to have been within a close enough range that they can get to the fire without actually having to intersect along with these guys, which means these guys had to be outside of that range somehow or within that range, right? So they had to be able to beat the fire department. These people also would have had to have known Maggie Long to some degree, because the thing is, she had a gate at the front entrance of her home, which is a road going in, which means somebody would have had to have seen her going in. This wasn't something random. You got to see there was a specific path, which means these people most likely, at least one of them, had been there. There's a number of things here that are a little interesting here. As to which one of these young men had been there, I don't know, and as to why, I don't know either, but it's a little peculiar. But I can already just throw those out there. I mean, they all make sense. I'll leave the rest up to everybody else. Like I said, once I'm able to go and get more solid ground on this. Did these young men, did their families own any of these types of vehicles? Well, I know one of them, a truck. There's one that looks very, very similar to this. One young man had. As for the van, I don't know. But I'm still looking into that. You guys can expect something, hopefully in the next, after 3 months. It'll be at least 3 months before I can get to that, but there is more to come. There's a lot more cases that we're going to go and cover. For those wondering if we're going to be coming back to Murder of the Gray State, absolutely. I do have more things. In fact, there's one thing I'm looking into right now. It's called taphonomy. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but that has to do with the study of bones. It's actually a field in archaeology. I believe it's archaeology or it's paleontology, one of them. But it's a study of bones themselves and what they mean. So, believe me, it does have something to do with the Crowley case. I will eventually get coming back to that. Zodiac case, yes, I do apologize. That is still not out yet. I am so far behind on all sorts of projects right now. I'll have to get back in touch with you, Greg, too, as I also have some more stuff I need to discuss with you concerning a project as well. So, but thank you guys for tuning in. That's all I've got for tonight. We'll be back next Saturday with the next case we're going to be taking up. It's going to be a brand new case entirely. Yeah, taphonomy. Take a look at that. You guys will enjoy that, I promise you. It's all sorts of things. And I've got a bunch of stuff I need to cover concerning not just taphonomy, but body mass, heat, all this that's going to go into all sorts of other stuff. All sorts of other goodies. What's the difference between that and forensic anthropologist? Archaeologists are known to use it, and that itself being a dying field as is. But it's something I just recently saw. There was another case I was looking at, and that came up. So I started looking into it, there's actually an article. I would highly suggest anyone looking at it, cold cases and things like this, where there's information about the bodies, highly suggest them checking it out. Where is it? You put it into this folder. Let me see. I'll just read this off here a second. Where did I put that? Oh, here it is. So it's called Effect of Body Mass and Clothing on Decomposition of Pig Carcasses. It's a really good read. Highly suggest checking it out. It helps with cases, like I said, with the Crowley case, Black Dahlia, things like this. It's a phenomenal one to go over. But that's what I've got, like I said, for everybody tonight. I'll be reaching out to Greg here pretty soon, and we'll be touching base on that project, of course, as I need to definitely to apologize, and of course, I do need to get with you on that one. So, but thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys then. Oh, and also make sure to check out Real News Now with Strange Investigations.